Hey guys! Did you ever wonder how liveries are created for flight simulators? Well, it's a super interesting process and, to be completely honest, sometimes also very tedious. I would love to show you a time-lapse of how this specific United Express livery was created for the E175 by X-Craft. So let's get right into it. The first thing we need to get are some high-resolution reference photos from all sides of the plane. I usually look for pictures of the left and right side of the plane, winglets, engines, tail, and also the bottom part of the plane. If we need any specific details, we might have to dig a little deeper. In this case, I saw that there was some blue label by the side of the door, which I wanted to add, but I needed to find a close-up photo of it. Since I couldn't find anything really useful on Google Images, I thought I could check YouTube because sometimes people like to film their whole journeys when flying, and I was hoping that someone might have filmed the door while stepping into the plane. And here we are, that's exactly what I was looking for, and I can see now that this is a label related to the Wi-Fi on board, so let me quickly save that. Next, I want to find and download all the logos in high resolution, which is not always easy actually, because oftentimes the logos online are pretty low resolution and they can't be used on the textures because it would all be very blurry. And in that case, I would then have to recreate the whole logo myself. I will also look for a good perpendicular photo of the tail, which I will use as a reference for the tail texture. Okay, let's open Photoshop and we will start painting the tail. Before I start, I also want to make sure that I'll be using the right colors. Sometimes this is easy because they're contained in the logo, but in this case I found that United is using a different color on their logo than on their planes. So the first thing I'm going to do is I will project the picture of the tail onto my white texture, and I will start by recreating these white circles on the globe. Next, I will create the gold sections. I'm using red color here to see the outlines better, but I can always change the color to whatever I want later. Next, I will create the blue background and put the other layers on top of it. Let's also make sure that I'm using the right colors. And now, if any livery painters are watching, see how I can just easily flip one side of the tail to the other so that it fits perfectly? You can read the instructions in the Photoshop Paint Kit files to learn how to do that. Okay, now I'm going to open my 3D software and I will check what the texture looks like when it's applied to the actual model. It's looking pretty good. Alright, a few changes. Okay, and let's move on to the fuselage. First, I will just copy the text layers from my other liveries and change the numbers and fonts, and make sure that they're exactly where they should be. Then I will start making the horizontal lines on the side of the fuselage. Since the fuselage is split in half on the texture, I need to add the lines in several places and then make sure that they are perfectly aligned. I have purposefully created the model so that it is easy for livery painters to add these lines. However, when the lines are not straight, for example they're curved or there are more lines, that's when it becomes really difficult. Luckily, on this United Express livery, we only have one line in the middle of the fuselage, which will also go over the belly, so this is the easier of the options. Once I have the gold line aligned perfectly on both sides, I can then add the gray section underneath. Next, I can add the logo. I always look at the reference photos to make sure that the logos are perfectly positioned based on the windows. This is where I feel a lot of liveries are wrong. Sometimes the logo is just placed anywhere on the side. It is important that the logo is perfectly aligned based on the windows for each airframe. Next, I will also want to add the Wi-Fi label, but first I need to recreate it in Photoshop because the photos that I have are very blurry and noisy and all skewed, so I want to create a flat, straight and clear version of the label. Next we have the belly. Once again, I need to make sure that the gold line perfectly matches the line on the fuselage. This is now the phase of the work that my university professor called something that is not very nice to say, but here we go, it's pixel fucking. When you need to move the layer up or down by 1 pixel, then export the texture, reload the texture, check it on the model, see that it's wrong and go back and move it by another pixel. That's exactly where it gets very tedious and time consuming when creating these liveries. I have also noticed that on the fuselage it says operated by Mesa Airlines, but I want to make sure that I use the exact font that they used and also the exact positioning. Unfortunately, this isn't visible on any of the pictures that I have, so I have to look for more pictures. Surprisingly, somebody actually took a photo of that exact text on the plane, so it's very easy for me to add it now. So let's go ahead and do that. I will also want to add the Star Alliance logo right here next to the cockpit window. And that's looking good, so I can go ahead and export this texture. That makes the fuselage and belly textures done, as well as the tail. Now I'm gonna move on to the engines. In this case, luckily the engines are simply gray, so I just need to make sure that I'll use the same gray color as I used on the fuselage, and I can just export that. Now, the winglets are a bit trickier. First of all, remember that I have to create the extended winglets as well as the normal winglets. The extended winglets were pretty straightforward, but creating the straight line on the normal winglets, it's actually very challenging. Due to the curved shape of the winglets, the lines in Photoshop have to be slightly curved at the end as well. This makes aligning the lines on both sides of the winglets very challenging, and it actually took me a whole hour of fiddling around with the lines pixel by pixel to make it look right. But again, this is what makes good liveries stand out from the bad ones. After finally getting the winglets right, the last step is just adding the registration. And now we can go ahead and check the livery in Explain. And by the way, if you like my background picture, I'll be explaining how you can customize your load screen in Explain in our Not a newsletters. So you should definitely sign up to make sure you get more content like this video and discover all the secrets of the flight simulation world. And here we have the finished livery. We can see that it's all looking very sexy, all lines are aligned properly, and all the text is clear and exactly where it should be. Making this livery took 3.5 hours, and this one was really quite simple. I believe the longest I spent on one livery was 67 hours. which was the new Embraer House Colors livery for the free E175 that you can download for free on our website. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comments because I would love to make more videos like this for you. That's it for today, and I'll see you next time.